Hey guys, it's Kayla and this is On the Fritz, where I talk about bookish things in a very mediocre fashion. Today I'm doing my first ever recent reads, so yay for me not forgetting and ending up doing another month-long wrap-up. I decided to do recent reads because normally in a month I read around 10 books on average, and filming wise I just don't like talking about 10 books every single month. So I thought I'd do every 5 books I do one of these, and then I'm not including my comics. I think I'm gonna bunch my comics into one separate video. So these are just the past 5 novels that I've read. And so all of these I read as audiobooks and they were all checked out from my library. So the first one was Barbarians, Tease by Ruby Dixon. This is book 15 in the Ice Planet Barbarians sci-fi alien romance series, and I gave this book 4 stars. So looking back, I mean, this one really isn't that special in this series, so it's probably more like a 3.5, but I mean, I just love this series so much that, you know, just throw my stars at these books. So this one, based on the events that happened in the prior book, the 2 love interests end up having like a one-night stand, and this book follows the aftermath of that. So Brooke, she doesn't have to do anything to do with, I think it's Trehan, I can't remember the aliens' names all the time. She doesn't want to do anything to do with them, and she just wants to be friends. And so this book basically goes about her kind of going back and forth with her feelings and them becoming friends, and then eventually going from friends to lovers, basically. Event-wise, not a whole lot happens in this book, but in the end it does set up the events for the spin-off series, which is the Ice Home series, which I'll talk about in a minute. So that was fun, and yeah, otherwise, I mean, it was a pretty average book for the series as a whole. So speaking of Ice Home, I reread Lauran's Barbarian by Ruby Dixon. This is number 1 in the spin-off series called the Ice Home series. So this one's so good. This is where I started. So I read Lauran's Barbarian back in, I think, January or December, and this was my first Ruby Dixon book. And I read this one, and I read the second book, and I realized that this was a spin-off. So that's when I went and started Ice Planet Barbarians. So in this one, we get 20 new people that come to the same planet that Ice Planet Barbarians takes place on. We have 16 human females, and we have 4 male aliens. So that kind of changes up the dynamic there already. Plus, what happens in Lauran's Barbarian opens up, it expands the world a little bit more, historical wise, plus just location wise. And so we end up with, I'm not sure, let's see, about 12 more alien men. I'm not quite sure on the number, but there's a baby involved. There's lots of new dynamics that are started in this spin-off series that just takes Ice Planet Barbarians to the next level. So, like I said, I started here, so it was fun to reread it fully knowing the original series, and then rereading it and seeing all the connections and everything. So, yeah, that was really fun. And so I immediately read Veronica's Dragon, which is book 2 in the Ice Home series, spin-off series. This one, the male love interest is a Draconi, which is a dragon shapeshifter, and that is the same species as the Draconi series. I can't think of what the actual title is, by Ruby Dixon. I read the first one. I didn't love it. They're a lot longer than these books, and not a whole lot happens. And I also did not like the male narrator on the audio. So if I do ever pick that series back up, I will just read it digitally. Yeah, it was cool to see, you know, different aliens in this world on Not Hoth, the island that this series takes place on. I really liked the plot, or I really liked the character development that happened for Veronica. Veronica is pitched as a very gangly and clumsy girl, and whereas her love interest is very, you know, handsome and confident, and he was very interested in Veronica before they even mated. So it's a really cute dynamic, but I really liked what happened in her development in this book. As for the Ice Home series, I have been listening to all these books on audio, and while they are on Kindle Unlimited, or you can, you know, buy them, I've just been patiently waiting for them to come out on audio, and so I really do want to push forward and read the rest of these books, but I'm content with reading other series. So as far as in the Ice Home series, I've read through book 3, and so I'm just waiting for book 4 to come out on audio. Okay, so moving away from romance, I read We Sold Our Souls by Grady Hendrix. I love Grady Hendrix so much. This is a horror book, and I gave it 5 stars. So this one is about our main character used to be in a metal band back in the day. They were doing very well. They were opening up for these very big bands, and one of their band members just kind of lost it and ruined the opportunity for them, but then later on, a couple days later, said that they got them this great deal and that they were gonna be, you know, even bigger than they could have been, but they had to change their band name and scrap the album that they had just recorded and go in a different direction. And so ever since then, the band split up, and we follow Kit. I think Kit's the main character's name. That she lives back at home. She's the night manager at a Best Western, and her life is just shit. And she sees this big billboard of her ex-bandmate, and he's doing a reunion tour, this big tour, this big like metal fest in Vegas, and it's all over the radio, there's billboards everywhere, and she decides that she's gonna go confront him and tell him how much he fucked up her life that night. And so before she goes straight to him, she decides to go and see her ex-bandmates. And it's like a road trip style book where she's driving around cross country to go to Vegas. The end game is to confront that band member who made it big, but before she makes pit stops to see all these other bandmates. And oh, this was so good. So the premise here is that, you know, what will you do for fame? You know, the title suggests, like, did they sell their souls? Did they not really? Grady Hendrix, his descriptions and world building are so detailed and very metaphorical, and in the best way. This audiobook was just amazing. And there's a lot of actual kind of layers to this book, so which I was not expecting. This book kind of gives you a little bit of an unreliable narrator vibe where you're not sure who to believe. You're not sure if this is a paranormal story or if it's just a metaphorical story. And it kind of popcorns back and forth, but not in an annoying way, in just a very well plotted out way. I love this. I love Grady Hendrix. He's one of my favorite horror authors. And I really recommend this, especially on audio. The last book I'm going to talk about is the one by John Mars. Again, I listened to this and I gave it 5 stars. This book, I had it on my TBR for a long time, and I just went through my shelves and decided to pick it up. It was on audio at my library, downloaded it, and I kind of glimpsed at the premise. And the premise is that there is this dating app or this dating website that matches you with your soulmate, your one actual soulmate, based on DNA. And it was like the twist of like, oh, is your soulmate really worth it? Or, you know, how can you trust your soulmate or something like that. So this book, we follow 5 different POVs, and it goes in order routinely. So the first POV is a girl who recently got divorced. Her husband took the test secretly and left her for his DNA match. And she's also had miscarriages in the past. So she's very lonely, she wants to be married, and she wants to be a mom more than anything. So that's kind of her backstory. The second character POV is a serial killer. And so this first half of the book, his POV is the only one that can kind of get a little creepy, just because we are in his head and we follow his multiple killings. But I mean, that's him. He's a serial killer. The third POV is a girl that kind of has a shitty job, didn't really go to college. Her match lives in Australia while she lives in the UK, and they've been talking and they're in love, but they've just sent each other a couple of pictures. They never like Skyped or seen each other in person. The next POV is a guy who is happily in a relationship. They just got engaged, but his fiance wants them to take the test, the DNA test, to see if they are matched, just to get it out of the way, just for reassurance, just like be reassured, because they're kind of pressured by their friends because their friends did it and they were each other's matches, ironically, and so they're kind of pressuring them to do the same. And then the final POV is this businesswoman who, you know, is very dedicated to her work. She's a workaholic, and the past men that she has dated have only wanted her for her money, and so she's just not really interested in dating. So those are all the 5 POVs, and like I said, they go in order. So you go in order every single time, and each of their POVs, I loved all their POV chapters, and they all end on cliffhangers. And so this book, I read 90% of this book in one day. It was so addicting, so good. The first half read like a contemporary romance, minus, again, the serial killer chapter. And then the second half, shit hits the fan, and everyone has secrets. So that's just when, I wouldn't say it's a thriller, I wouldn't say it's a mystery, I would just say it's a contemporary, like, suspense, just because the second half of the book is just, you're just kind of at the edge of your seat, because it's just drama, 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 and everyone's skeletons are coming out of the closet. So I really recommend this one. This one was very good on audio. Like I said, it's kind of confusing at first just because there are the 5 POVs, but they are in order and they are routine, and the narrator does give them a distinct kind of voice, and they each have their own backgrounds, and so once you kind of get the routine, you won't be confused at all. So yeah, those are the books I read so far. October has been a great reading month. A little bit of horror, a little bit of romance, just to kind of change things up. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!